They tied her up like an animal and left her for the sun to finish. Elena Morales hung from the twisted cottonwood, wrists ripped raw where the rope bit into bone. Her arms were stretched so high her shoulders screamed. Her bare feet couldn't reach the dirt. Her dress was torn up her thighs, and 2 ropes ran from her ankles to opposite roots, yanking her legs apart until every breath tasted like shame. Flies crawled over the blood on her knees. Sweat stung the cuts on her skin. They had called her witch, devil-loving girl, Mexican poison. They had laughed as they rode away. Now the only sound was the creak of rope and the dry rasp of her own breath. Elena tried to scream, but her voice came out broken. More a hiss than a cry. No one would hear. No one ever did until she heard it. Hoof-beats, slow, heavy. Not the wild gallop of men who came to hurt. The steady 4 count that rolled through the grass like a promise. A bay horse appeared on the rise, man dark as river mud. The man in the saddle sat tall, hat pulled low, coat dusted in the color of the plains. His beard was shot through with gray. His eyes, when he saw her, didn't widen. They narrowed like a man squinting at a storm he had already walked through once. Elias Carter, rancher, widower, about 51. If the lines at his eyes told the truth, his wife had been taken by a fever 10 years back, and his only boy had never come home from the war. So now it was just him and the land. He reined in under the tree and slid to the ground. No hurry, no curse, no prayer. Just a long, slow look at the girl hanging above him. Elena tried to twist away, but the ropes only bit deeper. He stepped in close, right between her spread feet, where he could reach the knots if he stretched. From her angle, all she saw was his hat brim and his chest rising, then his hands dropping to his belt, his fingers hooked into the front of his pants. He tugged at the leather strap, digging at something in his waistband from down there where no one else could see. Her heart went white with terror. "You want to put it in?" Her voice cracked on the last word. For a moment, he said nothing. The wind hissed through the grass. A crow cried somewhere far off. Then he dragged a small knife free from his belt. He lifted his face just enough for her to see his eyes, flat and steady. "No, I'm cutting you loose." The knife flashed. Rope snapped. Her body dropped. The world turned sideways, then slammed into his arms far up the trail. Another rider who had just crested the hill saw the rancher catch the bloody witch against his chest. He yanked his horse around and kicked hard, racing back toward Dodge City with a story the town would feast on. Elena felt the world dim at the edges as Elias lifted her like she weighed nothing. In that moment, he had a choice: ride toward the town that wanted her dead, or carry her toward his lonely ranch and make the whole county his enemy. So why did a tired old rancher choose to risk his own neck for a girl the town had already marked for the rope? Elias carried her the whole way with her head against his shoulder. Every few steps she drifted in and out, mumbling in Spanish, gripping his shirt like she was falling. The sun was sinking behind the prairie by the time his ranch came into view. Just a small spread of weathered boards and dusty corral fences near the Arkansas River. Nothing fancy, just a place a man lives when the world has already taken too much from him. Inside the house, he sat her down on the old guest bed. The mattress sank under her weight. She winced and curled in on herself, scared of him, scared of the room, scared of waking up in another kind of trap. Every breath pulled at the bruises on her ribs and the torn skin on her wrists. So just lying still felt like work. He knelt beside her. "Easy. You are safe now." When Elias reached for his belt again, she jerked away so fast she almost rolled off the bed. "Hold on. I'm only grabbing my knife to cut the rest of that rope." He said it soft this time, like he knew exactly what she was thinking. Her arm shook while he snipped the last bits of rope from her wrist. The skin underneath was swollen and purple, angry like a burn. "These need wrapping. If I leave them like this, you won't move your fingers by morning." He washed her wounds with warm water and crushed leaves from a tin she carried. The smell surprised him. Mint, sage, clean, not witchcraft. Just a girl who knew the land better than most doctors in Dodge City. Why were they calling you witch? She laughed once. "A broken small thing. I healed a boy, saved him from fever. He lived. His mama didn't. Someone had to blame someone." He didn't say much after that. What he couldn't see yet was how fast that quiet act of kindness was about to turn his whole world noisy. But Dodge City didn't sleep. While she rested under his roof, men with dry tongues and mean ideas were already pouring whiskey on the fire of his name. The cowboy who saw Elias catch her in his arms had already reached the Long Branch Saloon. By the time the lamps were lit, he was telling everyone that the old rancher had carried the Mexican witch away like some lost bride. Folks clapped, others spat. A few whispered that a man who touched a witch never stayed sane. Back at the ranch, Elena opened her eyes in the dark. Elias, they will come for me. He looked at the door like he already knew that they can come knocking. She swallowed. What if they do more than knock? And that was the moment he realized saving her once wasn't going to be enough. But what would he do when the first rider appeared at his gate in the night? Elias woke before the sun, the way old ranchers do when their bones know trouble is coming. The house was quiet, but the air felt wrong, like the land itself was holding its breath. He stepped onto the porch and saw it, dust rising on the trail. More than one rider moving steady, not hurried, which was worse. Men ride fast when they want to fight. They ride slow when they think they already own the outcome. Inside, Elena sat on the edge of the bed with her hands clasped tight. They are coming, right? Her voice was soft, but there was no doubt. Yes. Stay inside. I will handle this. She nodded, but he saw the fear in her eyes, the kind of fear he had only seen in horses that had been whipped too many times. She looked small sitting there, wrapped in the blanket he gave her, but her spine stayed straight. She never begged, not even once. A man can ignore a lot in this life, but it is hard to ignore someone who won't lay down even when the odds are bad. The riders reached the gate just as the sun cut over the prairie. 3 of them, the same cowboy who saw Elias rescue her, the town deputy, and old man Riley with his sour breath and his mouth twisted like a rusty hinge. Riley leaned forward in his saddle. We come for the witch. Elias didn't move. My ranch, my land, she stays. The deputy spat in the dirt. You can stand there and act noble all you want. Folks in Dodge say she cursed a woman dead. If you hide her, that curse lands on you too. Elias almost laughed, a dry, tired sound. She healed a dozen people before that woman ever fell sick. You know it. You drank the tea she made for your own stomach last winter. Riley looked away, embarrassed for half a breath. Then the anger came back twice as fast. Move aside. We will do it clean. Quick rope. Quick justice. Elias rested the barrel of his shotgun against the doorframe, his hand easy on the stock. You try to string her up on my land, you will have to walk through me first. The standoff cracked when a voice drifted from up the trail. Gentlemen, I believe you picked the wrong house for a hanging. Father Orr rode in fast enough that his horse was blowing, a worn Bible in one hand and an old Colt at his hip. Not drawn, but not hidden either. Even the deputy stepped back an inch. Most folks in Dodge could talk past a rancher. They still thought twice before picking a fight with a man of God who wasn't afraid to ride out alone. The father spoke calmly. If you touch that girl before the circuit judge arrives, every one of you will answer for it. Elias knew that riding out here for a Mexican girl the town called a witch would cost the priests something at Sunday Mass. One by one, the men turned their horses and rode off. But Elias knew they would be back. Dodge said he didn't let grudges die easy. Elias walked back inside. Elena looked up at him like a woman waiting to hear her future. Did they leave for now? She swallowed hard. Then, what happens when they come again? If you are still with me, grab a warm cup of tea and settle in, friend. Tell me what time it is, where you are, and where you are listening from. And if you want more stories like this, feel free to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Elias didn't answer her right away. Old man in the West learned not to promise what they can't keep. He just set another plank across the door that night and kept his boots on while he slept in the chair. Elena didn't stay in that back room. By the second morning, she was outside with her sleeves rolled too, trying to help. She fumbled with the pump, scared the chickens, and nearly got herself kicked trying to walk behind a mare. By the end of that first week, she moved through the yard sure-footed, like someone who had grown up working other people's fields. Elias watched her for a while, half amused, half worried she would get herself killed before the town could do it. Finally, he handed her a shovel. Start with this. Dirt doesn't kick back, she learned fast. She forked hay without choking on dust and led a skittish calf without losing the rope. One afternoon, he set 3 bottles on a fence post and put a light rifle in her hands, showing her how to brace her shoulder and breathe before she squeezed the trigger. One evening, he came in holding his lower back with a wise he tried to hide. Years in the saddle do that to a man. She noticed. Sit. He almost told her he was fine, then thought about the way she'd hung from that tree and sat down without arguing. She warmed some oil in a pan, crushed leaves from her little bundle, and rubbed the mix into his back with slow, firm circles. The pain eased under her hands like somebody had opened a window in his bones. What is that stuff? Things. Your land grows for you. You just never asked. But Dodge City didn't forget. When Elias rode in alone for salt and nails, talk fell quiet, then rose louder. Men nudged each other. Wives pulled their children closer. A lady from the church crossed herself when he walked by. You could feel it in the way the room thinned around him like trouble had just walked through the doors, wearing his face. The only one who looked him straight in the eye was Father Ur. The priest rode out now and then with bread, a bit of news, and a little wooden cross he asked Elena to keep if she wanted it. I don't care what they call you, he told her. You are under this roof now. That is enough for me. Out on the porch after one of those visits, Elena stood beside Elias and watched the sun go down. The sun sank behind the plains, leaving nothing but a red smear on the horizon. If your town hates me this much, and they barely knew me, she said, how long before they decide they hate you for standing next to me? What he answered that night would decide whether this was just a shelter for a season or the start of a life that might cost him everything. He didn't answer her right away. Finally, he said, if they decide they hate me for keeping you alive, then they can hate me. I have been alone a long time. I'm not sending you back to a rope so a few men can sleep easier. Then one night that thin piece finally tore. It was the kind of night that starts quiet and ends with a man finding out exactly how much he's willing to lose. The smell hit first, sharp and wrong. Not cooking fire, not lamp oil, burning hay, burning wood. Elias was out of his chair before the second breath. The barn was already glowing at the edges, orange licking through the slats. Cattle bawled in thick panic sound. He grabbed a bucket. Elena grabbed another. They ran side by side, throwing water, cutting ropes, slapping at sparks with wet blankets. One shadow moved at the edge of the firelight. A man on a horse turning away fast. The message was clear. Next time it wouldn't just be the barn. Elias swung his rifle up and put a round right between the horse's front feet. Dirt exploded up from the ground, and the animal reared high enough to send the rider scrambling for cover in the dark. That was his warning. When the flames finally dropped to smoking ash, Elias leaned on his knees, chest heaving. Elena stood beside him, soaked and shaking, but her eyes were clear. They won't stop, not while I'm here. Father Ur arrived at dawn, face pale, when he saw the blackened boards. I can preach and write letters. He said quietly. I can't change hearts that don't want changing. If you love this woman, you may have to love her somewhere else. Elias had known it in his gut for weeks, but hearing it said out loud made it real. Later that day, on the same porch where they had watched the sunset, Elias took her hand. I'm an old man, Elena. I don't have flowers or music. All I have is this land, this horse, and what is left of my name. If you stay, they will keep coming. If you go, I go with you. As your husband, if you will have me. She looked at the burn on his sleeve, at the rope, scars on her own wrist, then at the open road beyond the gate. No one ever chose me when it cost them something, she whispered. Maybe it's time someone did. They sold what cattle they could, packed the rest of their life into a wagon, and headed west toward the high country near Durango, where a man could breathe easier, and the law didn't ride out so often. The trail was no easy Sunday ride with dust storms, a lame horse, one long night when a lone rider trailed them until Elias finally lifted his rifle and put a warning shot into the dark. They lost 2 head of cattle to a flash flood and went 3 days on short rations when the water turned bitter. In that valley, they were just Elias and Elena Carter. No witch, no cursed rancher, just 2 stubborn souls who had walked through fire and decided not to live by other people's fear. Maybe that's the quiet lesson tucked inside all this dust and trouble. You don't get to choose what people call you, but you do get to choose who you stand beside and what you are willing to lose to keep them safe. Fellas, be honest now. Would you have kept riding and left her swinging, or would you have drawn a line in the dirt and told the whole town to come through you first? If this story stirred something in you, give it a like so more folks can find it. And if you enjoy these old Wild West tales about hard choices and second chances, feel free to subscribe and ride with us on the next one. I would love to hear what you would have done in a place like Dodge. Now, tell me in the comments, friend, what time is it where you are, and where in the world are you listening?